Hello, Cody. I want to play a game.
You have got to be joking.
For years, you have loathed the Saw franchise from going from something with a lot of depth to it to something with barely any depth whatsoever. And you've seen the new Jigsaw film. So here's my question to you. Will you give Jigsaw your highest rating? Or will you stay down here and suffer from hunger and thirst until you dry up like a raisin and nobody remembers you? Live or die. Make your choice.
You know, you could have worked a little bit harder on the makeup.
Well, whatever. What did you think of the movie?
Let's find out.
So Jigsaw is the 8th film within the Saw franchise, and right up front, it has pretty much every single trope that you think a Saw film would have. The really boring investigative aspect with detectives looking for Jigsaw, really clever traps, and that insanely creepy Billy doll. But to tell you the truth, I was actually pretty excited for Jigsaw, because from the marketing and who they had behind the camera, it looked like this film was going to be very different than previous Saw films. This film is directed by the Spearig brothers, and if you don't know who they are, they're the directors of Predestination and Daybreakers, and if you haven't seen those two films, they're very underrated and they're very good. Now, how was Jigsaw as a whole? I'm gonna be honest, I got quite a bit of enjoyment from this movie. I'm not saying this film is perfect, it has a lot of mistakes, but there is a lot of really good things in here. First of all, the cinematography, how this film looks as a whole, it's very beautiful. As I recall, every Saw film from the first had this really grungy, really dirty, disgusting look. This film is actually very crisp and very clean looking. I gotta say, the acting in here, it's not as terrible as a lot of the other Saw films have been. There are a lot of really terrible actors in here, particularly that one guy. You know, the guy that said that's not creepy at all in the trailer? Yeah, him? He was the worst of the worst. Another really big thing I appreciated about this film is it dives pretty deep into the psychology of John Kramer. I mean, putting people into these really clever traps to make them question their humanity is a very sick thing to do. But this film does give John Kramer a bit of humanity and explores his character a bit. And of course, we gotta talk about the traps. The traps in this movie, I didn't find them to be overwhelmingly spectacular, but there was one that I thoroughly enjoyed seeing. The best way I can describe it is imagine you've got a blender, but instead of the blades being at the very bottom of the cup, the blades go from the bottom to the top of the blender cup. If I'm gonna be honest though, my favorite part of this movie, hands down, is the twist that comes at the end of the movie. There are very few times when the ending of a movie will actually make my movie experience that much better, but I'm gonna be honest, the ending in Jigsaw, it did. It reminded me of the twist from the very first Saw film, except I think I might like this twist a lot better. Alright, positives are over, now I gotta get to my negatives, and there are quite a few. First of all, the marketing and the team behind this film said it was gonna be different, that they wanted to pay homage to the first Saw film, that it was going to be more psychological and they didn't want to rely on gore. Well, it certainly seemed that way for the first 10 minutes. But after that first 10 minutes and the first challenge within Jigsaw's game, it seemed like the producers were like, you know, that was really clever, but you know what people like more? They like gore, so let's put a lot of gore into this. And yeah, there is a lot of gratuitous gore inside of Jigsaw. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy watching the games, it's just I like the more psychological aspect that the first Saw offered. And once again, like I already said, the detective part of this movie, where the detectives are looking for Jigsaw, it is really dull. And I might be the only one to notice this, but very early on in the film, there was some really choppy editing. In one of the scenes, one of the detectives is talking with his boss, and then he goes to a bar to meet up with his partner, and he talks to his partner about the fact that she never mentioned a job offer that she had gotten to go work someplace else. But that job offer was literally never mentioned anywhere else in the movie. And it's not really the first case of bad editing in this film either. There are quite a few spots. But hey, with that aside, if there is one thing I love about this movie, it is Tobin Bell. Even if it's just his voice going through that Billy doll, Tobin Bell gives it 110%. He is great as John Kramer. I mean, I suppose he should be after all of this time. He has made John Kramer an iconic villain when it comes to horror. Guys, Jigsaw was a pretty enjoyable movie. When the creators said they wanted to create a film that was as good as the first Saw film, I don't think they exactly reached that goal, but I do think that they came just under it, because this is my favorite Saw film since the first. The film definitely has a trouble with its editing and pacing, and there are some scenes that are just incredibly difficult to watch because of how slow and boring they are. But overall, I had a pretty good time watching this movie, so I'll say that Jigsaw is a casual watch. But as always, it is what you guys say that matters. So have you had a chance to see Jigsaw yet? And what did you think of it? More importantly, what is your all-time favorite Saw film? Whatever you may think, leave a comment down below telling me those thoughts. And if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right there and subscribe and become part of the fray of nerds who love cinema. You all have a fantastic day.